Hi folks, welcome to the second lecture in my journey in math, the first season arithmetic. Today we are going to go back to numbers, and that is the name of this one. We're going to start with numbers. We'll call it part 1. The next one might be numbers part 2. Today we're going to discuss the method of the tally mark, and then we're going to see how the tally marks evolved into Roman numerals. And then if there's time, we're going to discuss our own number system, the Hindu Arabic system. And we'll get into this. So this is what we're going to look at today. So let's talk about tally marks. Now, I have to say that there isn't a whole lot of information known about tally marks because these people, they didn't really write and they didn't really read. Well, they read, but it was before history was really recorded. So a lot of this tally mark stuff is theory, and it's a lot of stuff that we look back and see. Well, we saw this and we saw this, and we're talking before Christ. We're talking way back there. But this tally mark system survived in some parts of Europe into the 19th century, where it was still used. And what is a tally mark? A tally mark is this. That's all it is. That's a tally mark. And whenever somebody wanted to count something, they'd tally it. And different villages and different places did things differently. The system, it was very common that everybody would say, okay, this is one thing, and this is two things, and this is three things, and then higher than that, well, everybody did things differently. And most of the common tally marks are based on 5s because I have 5 fingers, or they're based on 10 because I have 10 fingers. Okay, so where did we go? So when the guy said, okay, look, I count this, I count 1, I count this, I count 2, I count this, I count 3. That's the tally mark system. It's not very difficult. Where it gets difficult is when the tally mark system is like this. Well, that's very difficult to read. I have this many cows for sale. Would you like to buy a cow? How many cows? They cost this much. One cow costs this many gold pieces, and I have this many cows for sale. Now, that's pretty difficult to read. So it had to evolve from there. And it did. It evolved a little bit. It evolved into, well, let's see, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25 tally marks. Well, that's 30. Right off the bat, I can see that that's 30. I got 30. Right off the bat, I can't really see. But any higher than 6, that's where the system gets confusing. Okay, so we can go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Well, maybe I can't count. Well, I can. 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. Okay, so that's 55. So eventually, you can see there's a lot of flaws in this system. And the Romans had a solution for this, and they invented their system, the Roman Numeral System. And there's a lot of different versions of this system out there. So I'm going to talk about the general and the popular versions of this system. And they said, okay, you know what, we got a number 1. That's 1. And we'll let this be 2. and then this be 3, this be 4, this be 5, this be 6, and so on until this be 10. And then that got kind of crazy. I mean, have you ever played those dominoes where you play with 9? And I guess there's a different pattern, but I can't look at that and see if it's 9 or if it's actually 10. Those two look pretty similar to me. So this system got pretty confusing. So they broke it down into simpler things. And it started out, 1 was 10, and there's something under there. Huh? A rock. Sorry. 1 was 10. Well, I is 10. I is 1. X is 10. Then C is 100. So you can see where these symbols might cause a lot of X's and lots of I's for 99. 99 would be 9 X's and 9 I's. You can see the problem. So we had 1 for I, X for 10, C for 100, and then what C actually is off the Latin centum. A century's 100 years. A C note's $100. C, you'll see that a lot. C. And then the 1,000 is M. Milli. 1,000. And I think back to Star Wars. It always reminds me what 1,000 is. And I don't know if this is good and bad, but I think it was the coolest name of a ship, the Millennium Falcon. But I start to wonder, is it called the Millennium Falcon because it's 1,000 years old? Because a millennium is 1,000 years. Or is it called the Millennium Falcon because it takes 1,000 years to get somewhere? It's just not, it really sounds cool, but what millennium means for a ship, I don't really think that correlates right. So that's how I remember M, millennium, M. So that's the Roman numeral system and its beginning. And then from there, we said, hey, look, we need to do something, because to write 100 it takes me a billion symbols. So let's get some intermediate symbols into this, and that's what they did. So we already have that 1. I is 1, and we have that V is 5. Oh no, we don't. We have X is 5, a 10. X is 10. Wow. Let's see if I can screw this lecture up even more than I have. X is 10, C is 100, and M is 1,000. So they filled in the blanks here with a couple things. Well, of course, I've already spilled it that V is 5. So that makes things a little easier. And between X and C, the only time you probably ever see this in Roman numerals is in the Super Bowl. And it started with Super Bowl 40. And they've gotten to the point, I've heard discussion that they don't want to use Roman numerals anymore because they don't think that anybody understands Roman numerals past a certain point. I don't know if that's true or not. I just it's hearsay, but they need a symbol between 10 and 100, because to write 88 would take 16 symbols, but with 5 it would take 16 symbols. How many symbols would it take? that's a question you need to think about on your own. If there was no symbol for 50 and there was a symbol for 5, how many symbols would it take to show 88? Let's do it real quick. 88. There's no symbol for 50, so it'd be 8 X's. And there would be 1 5, and that's still a lot. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's still a lot of symbols for one number. And you can see the problems if you had to add 88 plus 82. You can see why we have the symbol that we have now, because the correlations of this have nothing to 88 plus 82, which we will get to this in a future lecture, but you can see how much easier it would be to use our modern system than it is to use a tally mark system, Roman numeral system that we had in those days, which would be a lot of X's and V's. Okay, so lots of X's, so we had a symbol between 10 and 100, and that letter that they decided, and this is just what I think why they made it this symbol, is that's a C, so they kind of made it part of a C. L is 50. L is 50. And then they needed a number between C and M, and there was a lot of different systems out there. Instead of just a C, they said, hey, well, let's take this C, and then if we put a line through it like this, it would be 2 C's, or it would be 5 C's, or it would be 10 C's. Different places from different cultures, they all decided this different language with numbers. And I think the Romans said, okay, well, we got this. They all had an election, because Romans were very democratic. Okay, let's all sit down. And the people sat around, and they said, all right, D is going to be 500. D is going to be 500. And then it's like, okay, so now we got symbols for 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, million. Okay, so those were the symbols that they used. And then they said, well, you know what? Let's not use more than 4 symbols in a row. So we got 1, 2, 3. Let's let 4 be 1 minus 5. So they said, okay, 4 is going to be 1 before 5. That way we don't have to write 4 symbols in a row. And in Roman numerals, there's never more than 4 symbols in a row. Okay, so now that we have 5, 6, 7, 8. What's after 8? Well, it's the one before 10, which is 1 before 10. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What's 14? Well, it's 1 and 1 before 5. And then 15. So this was the basics of all of this. So now, the big ones that you have to worry about that are kind of hard are digits with 4 and 9. 4, 9, 40, 90, 400, 900. Okay? 1, 5, 10, 50. Okay, so that's great. So then, before we look at some examples, which we're going to look at here in a minute, before we look at some examples of these nasty things, let's talk about higher numbers. Well, eventually they had to use numbers greater than. Well, let's look at this system and let's find the greatest number that we could possibly find. Let's see. We have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. There's no 4,000 because we can't have more than 3 in a row. So that's the highest we can get. And then we could do 900, which would be CM. So now that we have 3,999, let's see what 90. So that would be the biggest number we can do with this system. That would be the 3,999. Okay, because we can't have more than 3 M's in a row. So that's 3,000. Then that's 900. 90 is XC. XC. And then we have 99. So 3,999 is 1x. Okay, so that's the biggest number that we can do so far. And they decided, well, that's just not good enough. We need higher numbers than our population is more than 3,999. We need a system of bigger numbers, and there's a lot of arguments on how this came about. But of all the research that I've seen, there's one common thing that they've done, and this was to say, hey, let's put a bar over a letter, and that means to add 3 zeros. So 1,000 would be 1,000, but the bar over it would be 1,000. And then let's say 50,000, right? 50,000 would be 50 is L with the bar over it. So that's 50,000. And they said, oh my gosh, well, we need to calculate the taxes. If we take 50,000 people and we multiply it by 8, then we need 40,000 or 400,000, and that's just not enough. We need something better with bigger numbers. So here's what they came up with. They said, okay, if you have a number, a Roman numeral, let's use 5. Okay, so we got this Roman numeral 5, and we're gonna, if we put 2 bars around it like this, not a bar over it, but 2 bars around it to be bigger so that they don't look like eyes, that means we add 6 zeros. So this is 5 zeros. I'm sorry, 5 zeros. 100,000. So V is 500,000. So a million would be X 110 with 5 zeros. Obviously, this is a very difficult system. Very difficult system, especially when adding numbers with place value. So it didn't last long. Then we had the what came to be the Hindu or Arabic system, which is the number system we use now, and we'll cover in the next lecture. Now, there are some tests that have the basic Roman numerals on them, and you may come across this. So I'm going to do some examples with Roman numerals for you to figure out by yourself, because you never know when. I like to do things that apply to life, but unfortunately, this is one of those cases where you're never really going to walk down the street and get and have a coconut drop on your head and go, well, what is the Roman numeral of 1,428? So this is one of those parts where, hey, if you're taking a test like an SAT test, you might see a problem like this. If you're never going to take the SAT test or any kind of test with Roman numerals, you might want to stop the video now and say, all right, we'll go to the next video, where you will see, because I'm just going to do some examples and close out the video. So I'm going to write these examples down, and then I want you to press pause, and I want to see how good a teacher I am. I want you to write the numeric value of these numbers I want you to write the numeric value of these numbers in the number system that you haven't learned yet but have been using your whole life. I want to know what the numerical value of these numbers are in numbers that we use today. Press pause and then we'll see if you get them right, unless you don't care about Roman numerals, and then just skip to the next video if you want to. Okay, so there's your options. Okay, so let's look at these examples. And we're definitely going to start from right to left. We're going to be in a situation where we count. So I know that C is 100. This C is 100. This X is 10. So that means I'm skipping from 100 through 50 to 10. So that means the only reason why that 10 could be there is because this is 40. So far I have 240, and then I skip from 40 to 1, so that means I must be skipping to something else, because I go from a symbol so large to something so small, and the number 1 is before 10, so that means I must have 249. So CCXLIX is 249. What about the second one? From here I look like I have 100, but I'm right before an M, so that means I have 900. 50 is good. 60, 70, 80. So L is 50, X is 10, so I have 50, 60, 70, 80. And then I skip from 1 to a V. I always have to look, because if this was there, it'd just be 1. It'd be 981, but this is 4, so it'd be 984. If you start with an M, that means you're going to have 1,000 at least. There's no M next to it. But CD, so I skip from 1,000 all the way to 100, and then I have a 500, so that means I must have 400. 50, 60, 70. I don't skip to a 1, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8. So those are the 3 answers to my quiz. Thanks for watching. Next lecture, we are going to be looking at our current numerical system, how to look at small numbers, big numbers, and how we write numbers, and how to write it properly. I look forward to seeing that in lecture 3. I thank you for watching this, and we'll see you soon. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you think I suck, then throw me a thumbs down. But if you throw me a thumbs down, at least tell me why in the comments, because I'm not perfect, but I do this to help people. I appreciate you watching, and we will see you soon.